but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to agree to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. And as always, please can I ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking. So first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Agnew. We also have Councillor Sajid, Councillor Alban and Councillor Gilcher online. I think everyone taken into consideration there. Next item on the agenda is declarations of interest. So any declarations of interest, statutory or otherwise, in relation to pecuniary or non-pecuniary members, please. Councillor Russell.
Item 10R, it's Ivor Gardens.
Okay, 10R, yeah. Councillor Sean.
Non-pecuniary 13E.
13. Yes, okay, yep. And Councillor Thomas.
Non-pecuniary 10S. And about half of us should be doing that one.
Yes, I think likewise. There's a number of them might have a non-pecuniary for 10S. Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Barrett. 10S. Okay, thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No. Okay, so we'll move swiftly on then to town mayor's announcements. Really, just I wanted to firstly recognise I think what was a really great event. The Remembrance Day parade on Sunday was an excellent showcase for the town, but also the support for the British Legion, and obviously officers helped organise and had a really active involvement in making sure that it was a really good event. I know Councillor Woodhead has also had an active involvement in the preparation, so thank you, Councillor Woodhead. I think that went very, very well. And also Armistice Day on the Monday, again, as a good event, obviously less involved from a council perspective, but also well attended, considering from residents as well. And it just shows that the town does do these events very well, and it just shows the sort of the real community spirit that we have in Biggleswade currently. I've got no other announcements as such. I'm going to go straight into public open session. So anyone, Catherine, online that wishes to speak? No. We'll move straight on to invited, I'll check there. So invited speakers. So we have Councillor Steve Watkins here. Steve, welcome. You're going to talk to us about disposal of home farm and anything else you wish to speak about. So thank you.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me, and I apologise that I've had to rearrange this on several occasions. I can assure you it was out of my control, but it's very nice to be here. So I don't want to bore you with millions of slides. I've just got 4 slides to go through, but for me it's about, rather than being prescriptive and you feeling that you're being done to you by CBC, it's about hearing your views. And I say the same when I get dragged over to Dunstable and Leighton Buzzard. It's important that towns and parishes have their say. Clearly, home farm is going to be lucrative in one sense for the authority. We do have a very difficult budget coming up. Costs have gone absolutely through the roof, particularly in terms of adult social care and children's. But it's my intention that we at least get to utilise some of this windfall locally. So what I'd like to get out of this as well as answering any questions you have, is what you'd like to see for the town, what you think we need. I've got my own ideas, but I don't, of course, make decisions for everyone. So if you go to the first slide, please. I'll assume that most of you are aware of Home Farm, the site in the local plan. I won't read absolutely everything, but you'll see that it's to provide up to 63 hectares of new employment land, warehousing, employment opportunities. There'll be deliver improvements to the A1 and the A1 roundabout, which I know we get promised that, but it's absolutely something we need to ensure. There are a new footbridge and cycleway, landscaping to mask what is, of course, going to be a massive site. Opportunities for sustainable transport links. Now, I think point 5 is something that it's too often that we pay lip service to, and I know if you look at the other side, Co-op and all the warehousing, often transport will be paid for a number of years, and then it sort of peters out. So I think that we need to make sure that that's a long-term it's secured long-term for the town and for anyone who might work on that site. Measures, as you'd expect, given recent events, to reduce flood risk, including SUDS, which is the drainage system. We don't want it to interfere with the operation of the wind farm. There are the standard mitigations for mature woodland located within the site. Yes, that's a basic overview. You'll see a reference a bit later on to another parcel of land that we purchased. Now, if you look at the map, home farm is in the blue. You'll see sort of to the top right a white gap there. That is a infill site that we purchased just to round off the site and equalise it, essentially. So that's why we did that. Next slide, please. So in April, the executive authorised the sale of the site, and I mentioned just then the Walker Bartram land, which was acquired to equalise the site. Now, it says the council cannot develop the site itself and is seeking to secure a capital receipt. Now, of course, strictly that's not true. We could take that option if we so wished. It is commercially risky, and from similar developments in Dunstable springs to mind, I don't think we're best placed to be managing that ourselves. So I think a capital receipt is the best option. And before we dispose of it, I think we need to make sure what sort of development we want. So we've got all the safeguards in place, but I don't think the council running it is a particularly good idea. That would lead to an ongoing revenue receipt to the council, of course, but I still don't think we're in the business of managing sites like that. The only negative, and I suspect they've not put this in there on purpose, my dear friends who put the presentation together for me. There is a disaggregation agreement. So some of the land, as Councillor Russell will probably know, when the county council folded or ended, they own some of the land. So some of the money does need to be paid to Bedford Borough Council, but we get roughly 70, 80% of the site, and that tails off over a number of years. So the authority to dispose of the site is, of course, the relevant director of Place and Communities, which is no longer Lorna Carver, out of interest, if members weren't aware. There's been a slight change. So the new director responsible for assets is a gentleman called Robert Ling, who I haven't met yet, but I will be meeting on Thursday. So Lorna Carver has moved away from that. Ian Berry is the relevant service director still. And is all over the detail and is a really good chap and works very hard. So that's myself, the new director, the executive member for finance, which is Councillor Baker, and the director of resources. So we'll approve the terms of sale and authorise the completion. So I like to think that we've got a significant level of control over it, and it won't just be a fire sale, which is very important, I think. Yeah, we've got a tough medium-term financial plan. Home farm, of course, is factored into that, like any other site that we're looking to dispose of. But as I've said before, it's key that we do get some investment in Biggleswade, and look forward to your thoughts on that. The standard steps will take place: due diligence, soft market testing, and then we'll proceed with the disposal. Next slide, please. So we're looking to make the decision on starting the process for disposal in the first quarter of next year. I don't believe it's on the forward plan yet, but it will be very soon. The next line says the timing will depend on factors including market conditions. There's a very good reason for that. There's an obvious pressure to sell now and get what you can. But I think if you're clever, you realise that economic circumstances change. We've had a recent budget which, depending on your persuasion, was good or bad, and that will have an impact on the market. So although there's a demand to bring in receipts, we're very much prepared to play the long game if we think it's the right thing to do. Standard disposal process, 9 to 12 months. We've had smaller sites that take 6, 9 months, but I suspect 9 to 12 months is probably right for the size of the site. Then, of course, the all-important planning consents, and I think it's the onus is on the authority to not leave everything down to the planners and to make sure that what we've disposed of and what we've got in the heads of terms means that there isn't any wriggle room, so we end up with something that is detrimental to the town. The town council will be a consultee in this process. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a regular visitor to this chamber. there's no reason for that. Of course, all exec members are very busy, but if you ever want me, I'm very, very happy to come down. And I live in Biggleswade. I'm only a phone call or an email away. So when I say that, I do mean it. I don't see this as lip service. I very much welcome what you've got to say to help shape the proposal going forward. And I believe that's the last of the slides. So yes, I didn't want to bore you with PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. Any questions, comments you've got, very happy to hear them. Anything I don't know, I probably should know it by now, but if I don't, I will come back to you. But yeah, thank you for your time and fire away.
Okay then, so thanks Steve, thanks, appreciate that, thanks for the update on that. So members, any questions for Councillor Watkins? Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I noticed there was a walkway and a crossing over to the other side. Is there anything over there that we'd want to walk to? That's my thought, because I know what we've lost. Unfortunately, we lost the land. So it would be nice if you could go across there and find a way through and find as you say, the woodlands. Be nice to walk in if that's feasible. Or is there anything else over there that's worth visiting?
Well, there absolutely can be, and that should be part of the. I mean, if it's going to be largely commercial, you want somewhere that the workers are happy to stay during the day, and somewhere for I don't know whether it'll be retail or more on the line of warehousing, but either way, you want somewhere that people can spend some leisure time. So yes, that absolutely should be part of the outline planning.
Thank you, Councillor Skilton.
Oh yeah, thanks. Really, this is just kind of just to add to what Councillor Thomas raised there. Just that walkway, the principles of the Biggleswade Green Wheel are that it should always be outside of the main development of the town, and that walkway would basically mean that the south bit of the Green Wheel would go outside of the majority of the development, and that there is a need for the Green Wheel to be improved there. At the moment, it uses Home Court Avenue, so it's not really that green.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barrett.
You mentioned commercial, but you also mentioned retail. At this early stage, are there any thoughts around, is it commercial, is it retail, or a mix?
I mean, I think it will be for the market to decide, really. I don't think we should be prescriptive. There's an argument to say that we could insist on retail, but I think probably advanced logistics, as they call it now, is likely to be the way forward. We'll see what the market demand is.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Russell.
Thank you. There was a lot of discussion and a plan put forward by Central Bedfordshire when the local plan was being developed. And in that local plan, it was going to be economic development, but specifically for warehousing and smaller units for engineering firms or others that might want to move in, rather than more retail. So I'm a bit surprised to hear you saying about retail. But the other thing was there was quite a lot of detail about what should and shouldn't happen. Is that going to be taken forward into the contract with the developers, or are we starting again from square one?
So in terms of retail, as I say, maybe I didn't come across quite as I meant, but I think it's unlikely that retail will be the final outcome. To pick up on your second point, you said there were a lot of things that were promised. Perhaps you could refresh my memory as to what you're referring to.
Well, somebody's already mentioned transport, and we were talking about more than one bus doing a circuit of the town. It was meant to be to the new development at Home Farm from the station, and it was suggested that actually it should go to one or two of the main housing estates and also to the Stratton Business Park, and probably to the new development that goes south of Stratton Business Park when we get to the local plan too. So that was certainly one of the things. Quite specific about the tree belt that was needed to mask the development from the A1. And we've been talking about the green wheel, and definitely to be for both walking and cycle access for people to be able to get to the site from developments like Land East of Biggleswade without negotiating the A1 roundabout.
Yeah, I think if they were in there originally, that's something that we should ensure is in there. I'd expect that to be part of your consultation feedback, but I'm very happy to take that forward and make sure that they're still provided for. I did pick up on transport earlier. I'd like to make sure that transport is secured for more than just a couple of years, because what tends to happen is they'll give us an all singing, all dancing bus route, but it will last about 2 years, and probably 2 years before all the commercials actually built out. So it's fairly redundant, and you'll see from Co-op and the big logistics sites that yeah, they're having to fork out for it themselves, which is fine, but they're not always prepared to do it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Russell.
Yeah, if I could come back on that, what was being discussed at the time when it wasn't sure, it seemed obvious at the time of the local plan that Central Beds was likely to develop it, and I understand exactly why you're saying it's not. But the talk was that there would be a charge on all of the units in perpetuity to pay for the bus service. So the units would be leased, and there would be a charge in perpetuity to pay for the bus to the station, but also round to the major 2 or 3 major places in Biggleswade. So I don't know whether that can be written into any agreement, and I don't know whether the developers will just want to develop and sell and walk away, or whether they'll be like Tritax Symmetry and keep control of the site. But certainly that was what was being told, to make sure that the bus route was there permanently.
On that, there is an additional charge that Milton Keynes Council do for what they call development zones. It's not too late for us to designate Home Farm as a development zone. So there's certainly ways of, over and above business rates, of bringing in that revenue. But yeah, it's a very good point, because we don't want people turning up, building and walking away, and people can't get there. So yeah, I'm very mindful of that. And this is this is good feedback so far. So I'm grateful.
Thanks, Steve. Councillor Strawn and then Councillor Knight.
Well, it's very nice to have some consultation with Central Beds, and I appreciate the fact that you're coming to the meeting today. You mentioned consultation, and it'd be interesting to know how that's going to take place, but I have some concerns on the practicality of the disposal, because 78 hectares is a substantial site. So is Central Beds looking to sell it in piecemeal with appropriate covenants? And you've also got the issue, you've got the legal side of the contractual side of the sale, but also there's the planning element. And I'm just concerned that you could fall between 2 stools with not having sufficient safeguards in the contracts and the actual sale documentation, which then enables you to control the planning. I think one of the things that is important, which is based on the transport, is that there are encouragement for those people working in that area to come into the town centre, because we want to invigorate the town centre, and we need to work with Central Beds, as we're doing already on various things, to encourage people into the town centre, which is the bus routes and similar. So it's really future proofing it, so that if you are selling it, another thinking a long lease might have been appropriate, so eventually the land would come back to Central Beds. But if you did a 99-year lease, then the developers have got something to get into, but you've also got a greater control than if you just sell the freehold. So I hope those things will be taken into account, but I particularly would appreciate it if you and the officers could come back, if you're going to do a consultation, and then we, with some of your ideas, possibly present them to us in advance, so that we can actually work with you to get the best possible development for the town in the future.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I'm very mindful of selling off piecemeal, because then you find that developers worm their way out of their obligations. We've got a similar circumstance in Alsey. If any of you know the Chase Farm development, you suddenly hive it off, and the Section 106 and the contribution that you get is suddenly far less. But look, as it says up there, the decision maker, one of them is sat here, so you can hold me to that. I don't have to sign it off if I don't think it's appropriate for the town, and I won't do. On the lease and all the other stuff, Duncan, if you know anyone in the legal profession that might be able to give us some advice on that, then you do let me know. No, no, it's a good point, and I wouldn't like to see it sold off piecemeal.
Okay, thank Councillor Knight.
Thanks a lot for coming. So I'm thinking about the impact on highways a bit. Obviously, Biggleswade has 2 roundabouts onto the A1, and a lot of local traffic tries to use those at peak times, and they get really quite congested. And you could imagine with this new development, there'd be quite a lot of extra pressure on those 2 roundabouts. For years we've had the Black Cat that's been a complete mess, and finally that's being sorted out properly. I guess my concern is, we could easily end up with a situation where traffic lights appear on one of the 2 roundabouts or both as a bodge, which could then lead to considerable congestion, and then, eventually there'd need to be a flyover in many years' time. How do we avoid a situation where we cause chaos on those 2 roundabouts? Going north should be improving, but of course going south is a mess in Stevenage every morning as well. So logistics trucks going south down to Stevenage, again adding to the congestion. So what are your thoughts around those 2 roundabouts?
I'll have to be very careful about what I say, but there are discussions at the moment between a company with interest in development on either side of the A1, the home base side, and CBC, and I think it would be a solution that you would welcome. I'm painfully aware that's very vague. I can't say any more at this stage, but I will say that we're very aware of the need, and there is something that I might be able to tell you in due course, which is the worst answer I've ever given to the question. I'm very sorry, that's all I can say. So that's one.
Not around by the sound of it.
But more broadly, yes. Again, if the highways issues aren't further addressed by the home farm development, then I simply would refuse. And I know Councillor Baker would also refuse to sign off on it. So I think there are safeguards in place. But yes, hopefully some good news for you in the not too distant future.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Russell.
Picking up on the point that Councillor Knight's just made, my understanding is that when the roundabout was last altered by Central Bedfordshire Council, it was aligned so that there could be grade separation. That would be a really good improvement. And I know you can't say any detail, but actually that's what we really need at that roundabout, grade separation, particularly if people are coming out of Biggleswade to go round to the home farm development. And the other thing that occurs to me is that I think there's a Grampian condition on another planning application that says that they should upgrade 3 roundabouts on the A1. So I just remind you of that and how that might fit into future plans. And finally, while I've got the floor, the county council didn't fold.
I couldn't find the right words.
No.
Sorry, you were unfairly solved. Yes.
Well, we did hand over to 2 new councils,
yes.
and we didn't just fold.
Bye bye. I do apologise.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Russell. Thank you, Councillor Watkins, for that. Okay, members, any other questions for Councillor Watkins in relation to the subject, if that's okay? Councillor Thomas, then Councillor Strawn.
Yeah, so is it likely that when they finish with the roundabouts, there will be less chance of trucks just falling over? Is that something like your plan? Because that's what we need. Because the number of times the trucks fall over is just ridiculous.
I will raise that with my friend Councillor Baker in his highways role. But yes, it's a very good point. I'd like to think there'd be less occurrences than there are at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. You mentioned the fact that you've got to pay some money to Bedford Borough Council. Is there any reciprocal obligation on Bedford Borough Council to pay money to Central Beds Council in terms of development on their former county council land?
Absolutely, yeah. This is the biggest example of it, but absolutely, where the disaggregation agreement applies everywhere. But this is the juiciest opportunity, I think, for want of a better term. But yes, absolutely, of course.
Okay. Any other questions, members, in relation to this subject? I'm not seeing any further hands. So
So yeah, just by closing, I'd be very grateful if I've got my own scruffy notes. If you could arrange to formalise all the comments that you made and send them to me, I'd be very grateful.
Yep.
I will feed them into officers over the next couple of days. But part of me was dreading today, I must admit, actually. And you've been very kind, and your questions have been very fair. So I'm very grateful. So thanks very much.
Thank you. And in turn, yes, we will definitely get the minutes over to you into the detailed conversation. Absolutely. Oh, Councillor Thomas.
Could I also say to Councillor Watkins, thank you for being straight with us and telling us it fairly directly. That's a good approach. Thank you.
Okay. Well, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Steve. You're more than welcome, as you know, to stay for the rest of the meeting, but don't feel obligated to do so. Okay, lovely. Thanks very much. Cheers. We'll let you. Right, see you soon. Thank you. So I'm going to move then straight on to members' questions then. So item 6, members' questions. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I was approached yesterday by somebody who was vaguely interested, keenly interested, I'm not sure, in possibly if we've still got the chapel available to put stuff into, and or the old depot. So I can probably give you the name if you really want it, but I'm just wondering what's happening. Is it available still?
Go on, Peter.
Yeah. So the chapel is on phase 3 of the development work that members agreed. It's anticipated that all of the work will be completed probably by the end of January 2025. Yeah. At which point in time, the council can then deliberate about the non-consecrated area on the left-hand side, which is what we're talking about. But if there is anybody interested, if you'd like to share the information, then we can take that into consideration at the time.
Is the depot also available still, or?
The depot is, there's a tenant currently in there. The contract is due for renewal in July.
All right. Okay.
And we're in conversation with them at the moment about potential increase in rent.
All right.
But they've been there for a period of time now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I believe that item 13E is really important for us to have a discussion as planned, but I'd also like to propose that we move part of that item into exempt, subject to paragraph 5 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, if members are in agreement.
Okay, so I might from that, Councillor Jones, that there are some elements that you want to discuss that fall outside. That are sort of important to be discussed in a way that are commercially sensitive. Peter, if you perhaps share with me, right, I understand, yes. So in terms of, I'm going to read out what item 5 is, so that you're, for residents, information respect of which a claim to legal professional privilege can be maintained in legal proceedings. It's very wordy, but essentially, so what you're saying is there are some information that you perhaps want to bring forward for us to discuss. So I'm going to put it out to members.
But also mindful that we should have a proper discussion as planned also.
So essentially what you we'll have the main discussion in relation to Land North, but then once we've done that in the public session, then recommence the discussion in relation to Land North in an exempt session.
Thank you.
Is everyone happy with that approach? Yeah, okay. So we'll do that then.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Russell, sorry, thank you.
Another member's question. I'm coming up with my traffic island in St Andrews Street again. Have we heard anything at all?
Okay, Mr. Saini.
Thanks. Unfortunately, no, nothing back yet from CBC.
I have some ideas, but I won't put them forward now.
Okay.
About how we might treat some of this, because central beds are ignoring us on more than one issue. So I'll think about putting it on a future agenda.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strong.
Thank you. Just relating to all 3 sets of minutes under item 7, I hadn't noticed previously that they're going to be referred to as approved by the chairman of the committee. I think that's unnecessary, and indeed, in a couple of cases, it should be chairman of the meeting, right? As it would be chairman of the council in some cases, but where it's the chairman isn't the mayor, then it's different. But personally don't see any need for that. Why is it being brought on board at this stage?
I think Councillor Strong will take on board that feedback and act accordingly. Councillor Barrett.
I just wondered if we had an update on the standing orders. I think we had a long conversation here about how we were going to handle the changes to that, and I'm not sure where we've got to with that, please.
Peter? Yeah.
So thank you, Councillor Barrett. There was a conversation, an informal gathering on the 29th, and we set a deadline for members to come back with any comments by the 19th of November. We've had fairly limited response so far.
I think I'm right in saying that we made sure that there were different methods of feedback that members could use. So and so we've got a deadline of another week. Is that correct? No. Okay. So members, if you do have any additional feedback that you want to offer in relation to those, then please do so that we're able to collate all the information. Councillor Knight.
It's possible other members made the same mistake as me. So the invitation we have for the informal discussion actually contains the link to the version on SharePoint that you can add comments to. I missed that originally. So have a look at the calendar invite and you'll find all the information.
Okay, thank you. So what are you saying, Councillor Knight, that there needs to be, would be helpful to have another link?
If you look in the calendar invite, Catherine has put a link to the document on SharePoint, which you can add comments to. I've started adding comments. And I think the intent is that we add comments before the 21st of November.
So I think, Catherine, if you don't mind, could we send out another email with that link so that members have got it fresh in their mind and are able to feedback in due course? Councillor Barrett, did you want to?
Just to say, I've made my comments already. So
okay.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Strong.
Yes, just another item. Item under 8, we've got matters arising. We've got minutes of council meeting on the 2nd of Tuesday, the 8th of October, but not of the 22nd of October.
I've got a note to deal with that, Councillor Strong, but thank you for pointing it out. Anything else? No, nothing else. Okay, in which case we'll move straight on to item 7, minutes. So we're minutes of the Town Council meeting on the 8th of October. Obviously, Councillor Barrett chaired this, but any I'm going to go through for accuracy. So accuracy on page 9, please. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. And page 17. So for accuracy, you're happy. I have to be clear on this, that I wasn't there at the end. So perhaps Councillor Barrett might sign these ones off, but I'm happy to sign. Someone will sign these off as being accurate in due course. So I'm going to move on to the meeting of the 22nd of October. So we're now on page 19 for accuracy. Page 20. And then page 21. So happy. So again, no issues with accuracy on that. So I will sign those ones off. Subject, Councillor Russ, I think, to an element that there's. I think there was one item. So there's an exempt minutes that Councillor Russell has had a conversation with us about, which we will need to refer to. So before we can sign them off, Councillor Barrett, we just need to deal with the exempt item in exempt. Okay. I'm going to move then on to the minutes of the Public Land and Open Spaces Committee, and this is purely for information. So it's a draft minute, as always. It's here for information only. It's for the committee to sign that off in due course, but obviously you have it there so that we can reflect on it if you need to. So I'm going to go back to move on to item 8, matters arising. And this is matters arising relating to the minutes of the 8th of October. So page 9 for matters arising. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. And page 16. Obviously 17 is exempt anyway, so, okay, so no matters arising there. And then we'll move on to matters arising to, on the 22nd of October. So we're on page 19 for matters arising. Page 20. And again, 21 is exempt, so no matters arising in relation to those. Thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is item 9A, which is scheme of delegations. So I'm going to pass over to Peter to introduce, and we'll consider in due course.
Okay, I think this is a short, self-explanatory report, but as it says, this was discussed at council back on the 8th of October. We have, as you'll notice, reinstated the standing committee powers. We've also made reference to the spending powers connected to a sum of up to £15,000, and consistent with normal practice, anything higher than that, or indeed capital related, will come to council. What we also did was have a thorough assessment in regard to the elements of accuracy that was brought up at the previous conversation. Hopefully, it's now in a state where we are able to consider adoption. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that. Any members, any comments, feedback in relation to the scheme of delegations, please? Councillor Russell and then Councillor Strawn.
Sorry to raise it, but on page 37 under Personnel Committee, 5 from the bottom of the bullet points, it says recommend policy change within their area of responsibility. Well, that doesn't quite reflect our current practice. So either our current practice is wrong or this is wrong, because normally changes to personnel policies are decided by the Personnel Committee. I don't know whether the clerk has anything to say on that, but I felt there was a disjunct there.
This is the same as in the sense of what was currently there, but I think I wholeheartedly agree with you. It isn't about recommending, it's about making a judgment within the policy that you've got. So yeah, recommend is probably the wrong word to put in. Yeah.
Okay, so slight wording change there, which we'll deal with that. Councillor Strawn.
Thank you. 2 points, much the same. On top of page 35 and again at the top of page 37, if you take page 35 in the very first paragraph, it says for resolutions under £15,000. I don't think that is particularly well worded. If resolutions for expenditure under £15,000 may be more appropriate, but resolutions isn't the appropriate wording, so it needs just adding in that it's to do with expenditure rather than just resolutions.
Yep. So that's so page 35 and say 37. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? I'm going to go to Councillor Alban. Councillor Alban online.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just got 2 small points. On page 33, so a little more than halfway down, it talks about Drove Road Cemetery. And the way it reads now is Drove Road Cemetery and the hiring of, where chapel has been removed. But the hiring of would refer to the chapel rather than the cemetery. So I wonder if that the chapel needs to actually be put back in.
So we'll put that back in. It's fine.
Okay, and the other point is on page 35. So it talks about CCTV cameras under the council's control and contracts, and relating to has been scrubbed out, but it is relating to contracts. So that doesn't quite read right to me. I don't know what other members think.
I think you're right, Councillor Alban. So the wordings, CCTV cameras under the council's control and contracts. Are you saying something like applicable contracts or relevant contracts? Maybe the word relevant before contracts.
Oh, I think the original wording might suffice.
Okay.
Personally.
Councillor Strawn's got a view.
Would it be and related contracts?
Maybe that.
I think that reads better than relating to.
Sure.
So, okay, Catherine, you have that? Okay, perfect. Councillor North and Councillor Barrett.
Just going back to Councillor Olborn's comments about Drove Road Cemetery. He said, yeah, I think it should say Drove Road Cemetery and Chapel and the hiring of the chapel or something like that to make it read properly. That's all. I mean, the principle is the same, but it should refer specifically to the chapel as that is the bit that's hired out.
Yeah, that's fair. So I think there are some appropriate wordings. Let's not get hung up. I understand what you're saying. So, Catherine, if we can put some appropriate wording that ensures we deal with the hiring element, then we can deal with that.
Okay. Also on there's no mention of Stratton Way Cemetery. I couldn't see it anyway.
Peter, do you want?
Which should be there, shouldn't it?
So we've got that. That's good.
And the third point, if I may,
sure.
Chairman, towards the top it says the committee is required to submit a list of resolutions and recommendations next, if these are for sums larger than £15,000, or if they are linked to capital projects. Well, I would suggest that all resolutions should be reported to the council. And obviously recommendations would have to be brought to the council because they are recommendations to council. So this bit about sums larger than £15,000 is not entirely relevant, I would say.
Peter, I'm going to ask you to make this feedback on that.
Yeah, so obviously any initial determinations any standing committee makes come back to council in that sense. This is about schemes of delegation in the sense of part of financial delegation, and that's why it's highlighted in this particular way. Was reinstated in this particular way.
So to be clear, so if I may, Mike, right? So what we're saying then is that the committee can make a resolution for anything under 15,000, and it can make a recommendation for anything revenue based up to 15,000, and anything over 15,000 revenue comes back to council. But and also anything capital comes back to council is the way that the wording is the way I understand it.
Yeah, but surely the committee can make a recommendation about things over 15,000.
Yeah, which I think it is. Which it is saying in the wording, I think. I'm going to go to Councillor Straw.
Well,
maybe.
No, what about recommendations for sums under 15,000?
Delegated power, the way that it's written now, to make it an absolute determination for a sum greater than £15,000.
So the first line, first paragraph, refers to resolutions under 15,000.
Right.
So anything over 15,000 has to come back to council for recommendation on revenue. So anything under 15,000 where it's a revenue item can be dealt with by the committee.
Yes, but that should be reported to council. I am suggesting.
Right.
Whereas this says that only resolutions and recommendations need to be brought to the council if they're for sums larger than £15,000. Well, that doesn't make sense to me because all recommendations have got to be brought to council. And I don't see any reason why resolutions relating to sums under 15,000 should not be reported to council.
I understand where you're right. So effectively anything that a committee recommends or resolves, whether if it's a revenue item under 15,000, it should still be, in your view, be reported to the council as part of the resolution, as part of the minutes of the committee.
Well, it could be. Yeah, I mean, it could be in the form of a presentation of draft minutes, but I don't know. I think it should be a separate report, basically. Personally, which we used to do in the past, I think.
Okay, park that for a moment. We'll keep that point. Councillor Strong.
Just on this point, I think again, if we're going to leave in the wording in blue added here, if these are for expending sums larger than, which I think is the point, but taking into account Councillor North's comments, is it necessary to have the wording in blue at all in this particular part? Because they're going to have to go to council anyway before they can be spent. And Councillor North's talking about all recommendations and resolutions going to council, which they would do from the committee anyway.
When you actually explain it like that, Councillor Strong, it actually makes complete sense. In other words, the committee, if you take those wordings out, a list of resolutions and recommendations for the next meeting, and that applies to anything over 15,000 where it's a capital or revenue item over 15,000, and anything under comes back as a resolution rather than a recommendation. So on that basis, are we saying take that last bit out on both, on all of the reports? Yeah. Happy with that?
In that paragraph, yeah.
You know, in that paragraph, yeah, and
Yeah.
each of the committees have the same paragraph. So I think it's actually right. You take that out, and then it makes sense. Yep, Councillor Barrett.
Just a small thing on page 33.
Yep.
Plus, the first bullet point says all council play areas, equipment, buildings, fences, hiring, or leases relating to. And then when we go to page 8, finance and general purposes, the bottom point says to oversee the management of the Orchard Community Centre. So that one needs to be in one and not the other.
So it's being clear which, so the Orchard Centre being a building needs to be referred to its, make a reference. So in other words, the PLOS excludes, excluding the Orchard Centre and vice versa. Catherine, you have that? Lovely. Okay. Anything else, members? Okay. So subject to those changes, and I think, Catherine, probably worthwhile if we can get these changed and then sent out to members. So subject to these changes, are we happy for this to move forward? Councillor Strawn.
I think just if Catherine, when going through it, could just check that the points we've been making are consistent through all the committees, because if you look at them and start going through them, you see similar work amendments have been made to different ones at the moment, but you need to look at all the committees, such as for expenditure resolutions, etc.
Yep. So I'm just conscious, do you want it to come back to review again, or are you happy to say that subject to these changes that we're happy to accept these and then review it again in whenever the next review period is November 25? Yes. Happy with that? Okay, lovely, thank you. Right, so back to, we're now on 9B then, the police liaison role. Obviously one of the representatives resigned from the position. We're looking to appoint or elect a new representative. We can vote. I guess we need to see whether we've got any nominees first, Councillor Brown. So do we have any people that would like to be elected as the police liaison role? Please don't all show at once. So any volunteers, any nominations, any people that wish to do this role? Okay, that's
well, who has resigned?
It's Councillor Skilton is unable to do that, so has resigned. So do we have any? No one at this moment then. Okay,
Propose someone, right? Or
you can propose someone, but if it's someone that's not here, with the best will in the world, bearing in mind that the only person that's not available is Councillor Agnew and everyone else is online, that the three people that are online may not be too happy with you suggesting one of them if they're able to make representations, Councillor Patel. So feel free to make the proposal, and they may not be too happy with it. So shall we leave this one for now then? It would be, I think we do need to have a second representative, but it doesn't look as though there's a great deal of appetite. Councillor Barrett?
I'm just going to suggest, I wonder if the current incumbent could just write down a little bit about what the role actually is and send it round to everybody, and then perhaps it would help us to maybe think about doing the role or not.
Well, perhaps so Councillor Patel, would you happy to support with that? Does Councillor Gilcher know about this?
You know about, yeah, no, he does know about this, yeah.
So Councillor Gilcher if Councillor Gilcher is aware, and we need to be clear because we are electing someone without them being present. I assure you if Councillor Gilcher, and on your assurance, Councillor Patel, that Councillor Gilcher is absolutely sure, you're sure that he wishes to do it. Peter, are you happy with that approach?
It's less than ideal, but
It is less than ideal. Well, I think if Councillor Gilcher, let's leave it then that we've got a Councillor Gilcher elected, subject to Councillor Gilcher resigning fairly quickly from the role in due course, if that is appropriate. At least that way we are able to move this on. And if at any point between now and the next council meeting, Councillor Gilcher feels that he's unable to carry out that role, we deal with it again, rather than not have it dealt with at this meeting and then not have a representative, if that's okay. Happy with that? Unsatisfactory, but at least it's a way forward. Okay, shall we move on? So Stratton Way Cemetery. So we're at we're on 9C. Mr. Hussaini.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So this report provides an update on some of the good work that the Stratton Cemetery Working Group's been doing to date. Over and above what the actual report sets out, there've been a few recent updates, including under item 2 on the summary regarding new bollards being installed by the public realm team. In addition, that's at the front of the cemetery entrance. In addition to that, the team have now moved the wire waste refuse bins to the front and encased them in quite an attractive set of planters there. So there's sort of an enhancement to the front of that entrance area, both in terms of beauty or appearance and security. So that's okay. Moving on, I'm not at liberty to say too much else on point 3 here, which regards the grant application for the Langford Wind Farm, but I understand there's going to be an update coming soon. We've had an interim update on this already, and we'll see what happens next week.
Okay.
Or later this week, indeed. Another separate grant has been applied for late last week, actually, for I think it was £15,000 again for landscaping for the cemetery, and we'll await that. That was the CVC. We await the outcome of that, which is going to be several weeks in waiting for that. Between the two grants, essentially, that's going to cover most of the landscaping for trees, shrubs, hedges, and bulb planting, both later on in this season, if you like, autumn, winter, and then going through to 25, 26 potentially as well. In terms of the offers of point 5 here, actually, in terms of discussions initially with Grand Union, we've managed to have an initial discussion with the property manager, who has taken some of the salient options here regarding the various options at the back of the land, back into Grand Union, and is discussing that internally. And we're just awaiting to see a response in terms of what could be done on that basis. And I think that's it for now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Knight.
Thank you for the work that's progressed so far, and thank you for the report. So just a few quick comments. So the next meeting of the working group is on Thursday, the 21st of November. Really glad that officers have started a conversation with Grand Union. I know that took some time to get going, and that's around the land in the northwest corner of the football pitches, and really just trying to understand from a strategic perspective whether that could be incorporated into the site before we commit to any specific plans. And then in relation to point 6, yes, the working groups propose alternative ways to protect the roundabout. I just wanted to be clear, the working group hasn't considered the proposals that are costed at an indicative 47 or 22k yet. So that's something I think we should discuss on the 21st of November. Thank you.
Okay. So I think as laid out, any comments really from members firstly? Anything you wish to add? Councillor Russell?
Just move that we note it.
Fine. Okay, fine. Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll move on then. So we're now at item 10, planning applications. There are a number. I can't remember the last time we got to a letter T. So this is an interesting development for us. So we'll go through these one by one. So 10A, 4 St Margaret's Gardens, 1.5 storey extension, a single storey extension following demolition of garage. And obviously we've got a previous no objection in relation to this, subject to neighbours, etc. Any comments on this one? Subject to neighbours again, happy? Okay, thank you. 10B, this is 7 Mead End, erection of front extension, replacement of front door and porch, etc. Any comments? Again, Councillor Barrett.
There's a request in there that the applicant has a section 278 agreement, I think it is, for the drop curve. I think it's 6 metres, so it's bigger than normal, but apart from that, I think it's subject to neighbours.
Fine, but so there's no concern in relation to it? No, okay. 10C, 28 Larkinson Avenue, new open front porch, single storey start side and single storey rear side extensions. Okay, subject to neighbours, yep. 29A Linsell Crescent, retrospective plan and permission for existing rear canopy and timber structure. Again, says retrospective. Any comments? Anyone? No.
It's retrospective. It's retrospective.
It is what it is. Okay.
Shame it is what it is. It's there.
Okay, lovely. We'll. There's no objection. Subject to neighbours again then. 10E, flat 130, Shortmead Street, replacement of the existing rear extension with a new rear and side extension with roof lantern, view-out balcony, etc. Any comments on that one? Councillor Russell?
I'm just a bit concerned about the state of the building, because if you look at 130 Shortmead Street, it's almost derelict. It's where the fish and chip shop used to be for years.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be an intermittent cafe now, but the whole building looks quite derelict, and this only seems to be for the flat. So I'm not sure that we can object, but I'm just rather surprised that there isn't something happening for the whole building.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strawn.
Are there any issues? Because I believe it's in the conservation area as well. There's no reference to that in the on this planning application, as far as I can tell, because I'd have thought they'd have had to be going through that process as well.
I can't answer that from a personal perspective, but no. So are we saying what would you like to do on this?
Can we say no objection subject to consideration given to the conservation area status of it?
We can do that. Yeah. Catherine, you have that? Yep. Everyone happy with that? Okay, let's do that then. 10F, Social Centre, Mead End, demolition of 2 buildings. Councillor Woodhead.
It's perhaps less about the demolition, but it's more about, I guess, kind of what's there at the moment. Because I mean, I think the buildings are referring to what used to be the youth centre. I think, I don't know where that provision's gone or where it's going to, and that's the bit I'm a bit confused about. But I realise that's slightly outside of this, but it does seem to have been sort of crept in because there is an existing youth centre mainly for send young people there at the moment, but I'm unclear.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, there's sort of broader questions around CBC about some of this provision rather than the physical buildings. But
right, so we'll deal with the planning application side. Sure. So I'm going to have Councillor Barrett first, and then Councillor Alban. I know I've got you there as well.
I think the applicant may have withdrawn it.
So Councillor Alban is nodding. So
I think they've withdrawn the request, the application.
So in which case we won't deal with that at this meeting and leave it there. Okay, thank you for that, both Councillor Barrett and Councillor Alban. Thank you. We're on 10G 77 London Road, erection of front porch. Be subject to neighbours on that one. 10H 81 Shortmead Street, listed building, removal of plasterboard stud wall in kitchen area, allow investigation of chimney breast and fireplace behind to allow a traditional style oven and additional storage options and future refurbishments. Councillor Barrett.
I'm minded to object because it's a grade 2 listed building, and you buy a grade 2 listed building understanding that it's a grade 2 listed building and things don't tend to change. And I think they're trying to knock down a wall in the middle to create one large sort of downstairs. And I think it will change the structure and the original makeup of the building, which I thought the grade 2 was there to protect.
So the planning application is for the removal of the plasterboard to allow investigation. So without
sorry, if you look at the plans,
yep.
It's 2 rooms with a wall in the middle, and the second plan has that pretty much all that wall gone. So they may have over-egged the plans, but it certainly shows the wall almost removed.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Strawn, and we'll come back. Okay, thank you.
The observation is rather that's with the flat we're referring to in Shortmead Street Conservation Area, and again, it might well be needing conservation officers' observations and comments on this. So I'm just concerned that a couple of applications have come in which may have needed to be dealt with under the conservation planning issues, as well as this is just a straight planning application.
Okay, so this one, so are we saying that we're objecting to this one on the basis it's a grade 2 listed building, and we would need to take on board the views of the conservation officer to ensure that this application is appropriate? Happy with that? Okay, so objecting at the moment. Okay, thank you. Now 10I, Biggleswade Academy, creation of new pedestrian drop-off pickup points for parents, enhanced pedestrian access within the site, provision of 2 disabled car parking bays, etc. Councillor Skilton.
Thank you. I couldn't see the highway comments on this. I might have missed it. There are 2 applications relating to this, and what concerns me is that it will increase the likelihood of people stopping on the yellow zigzags in Mead End. There seems to be a weird hard standing that I've never seen anything like that before, where I'm guessing that's where parents will gather to collect their children and then walk them off the site, and there's a path through. But being so close to the road, I think that's just going to encourage people to chance it on those zigzags there. So I'm minded to object on that for both of these applications.
So can you be clear on the reason for the objection, so that the Catherine has a legitimate planning reason that we can object to, and I'm drawn to my my notes here in relation to what is a genuine planning reason. I guess we've got highway safety.
Yeah, that's it.
So thank you. So highway safety relation to the, leave it at highway safety, and then it's ambiguous enough, but we're clear on those grounds. Yeah. Happy with that objection on that one? I'm not seeing any objections. That's okay. So and then Biggleswade Academy, again, this is the same. So the same thing applies to both. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to comment, Mr. Chairman. It's largely a similar issue. I mean, I think Mead End in some ways is slightly better, but Kitelands is particularly bad for parental drop off and cars and all the rest of it. And there's been lots of complaints from residents in that part of the area. And I don't think what the school is suggesting, particularly on J, I accept Councillor Skilton's points on I, but certainly on J, that is nowhere near enough in terms of traffic mitigation and parking and all the rest of it down there. And I think the school needs to have a bit of a rethink, to be honest. So I agree. I would object on the grounds you've
highway
safety that you identified earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Okay. We'll move on then to 10K 5 Laurel View, single story rear extension with roof lights, new door to side elevation, single story garden shed to front garden. Comments? It's going to be subject to neighbours. I mean, the idea of a single story front shed in the front garden doesn't feel particularly pleasant, but it's going to be a subject to neighbours one. I think it has to be. Okay, and then we've got the same address, part single and part 2 story side extension, part retrospective. Any comments on that one? Or are we again subject to neighbours?
Subject to neighbours, it's already
okay. There. It's there, so the planning officer will need to make their judgments in due course. Now we're on 10M land outside Unit B, Stratton Business Park. This is an advertisement installation of non-illuminated freestanding business park directory sign.
I had no objection.
So no objection. Subject to neighbours again.
But not sure there are neighbours as such.
Well,
in that instance,
subject to any other feedback from local businesses. Then.
Yeah.
To 10N, the Plough House, 276 London Road, Biggleswade, demolition of 2 existing buildings, removal of pre-existing mobile home, change of use of land for the creation of 4 gypsy traveller pitches, comprising the siting of 4 static caravans and 4 touring caravans alongside the erection of 1 combined day room park retrospective. Comments? Councillor Skilton?
I think if this was a normal residential application for 4 houses, we'd probably be objecting on the grounds that it's so close to the A1 and not a nice place to live. I'm not sure what the planning reason is, but I know we've objected on applications for that sort of thing before, and I know they have in Potton as well. And so I just would be concerned, you know, from that point of view. But I'm, you know, happy to take what other members think.
Okay, Councillor Russell?
I don't know, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I would have thought that National Highways needed to have a view on this, because access for the number of vehicles that are likely to be concerned, particularly with the possible movement of caravans, it's really quite dangerous where that is on the top of Topless Hill.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Strawn?
Very much on the same point, the access and exit from there, I think, is potentially dangerous. And indeed, I think last time we had an application for this site when the initial caravans were going there, we did raise concerns then about the access and egress to it. So I think we could object on the grounds that we believe that the access and exits are inappropriate in view of the national A1 road.
So access and exit onto the highway. So it's a highway safety issue. Again, same thing. Okay.
I think we should also say that National Highways should be consulted, and any response from them needs to be part of this, rather than just assuming that if they don't answer, it's not a point. I think they have to say categorically if they think it's okay for that, because we.
So happy to include that.
So include that as part of the response to Central Beds. So Catherine, you've got that notice as well. Yep. Okay. Lovely. So we're on 10.011A Sun Street, listed building, replace windows and door to front elevation. So that's subject to neighbours. Yep. Okay. 45 London Road. This is works a tree within a conservation area. I'm not going to read all of that out, but if you've read anything to do with any comments on that one.
I think noted. Yeah,
Noted.
no objection. I think the work they're doing is required and to a good standard. Looking at the.
Okay, and again, next one is so I'm noting that one. So no objection. Land adjacent to 18 Manor Court. Again, work to trees protected by TPO. Comments? Are we again no objection? No objection. Okay. 20 so R26 Ivor Gardens works to tree and TPO. Comments? Again, no. Okay. And then S, Conservative Club St Andrew Street, work to trees, again TPO. The trees in the conservation area, doesn't say about TPO. Comments? No comments, no happy. Yep, noted. And then T, amenity land along frontage of A1 retail park, again TPO. Any comments? Councillor Russell?
Just to say that I think this is the first time I've seen the actual application of a TPO coming to council, so I'm very pleased to see it.
Yep. Okay, good. Okay, well, so no objection on this one either. So we'll move on. So we're going to go then now on to item 11, plan application outcomes. Any comments on the plan application outcomes? Any comments? Just very conscious that we have this come to council every month. Obviously, the officers are putting work into making sure that we've got the information there. Are members finding, and I'm posing a question here, are members finding that having the summary here is valuable use of officer time? If you are, that's fine. Councillor Russell? I
appreciate reading it.
Yep.
I just get rather depressed when things are allowed that we've given valid objections to, as the town council, but I think it is useful to see the outcomes because we don't always pick them up in other ways.
I wasn't suggesting it wasn't. I just wanted to clarify, given that we've in the last couple of meetings, we've noted the report, to be fair, without any additional comments. So just want to make sure it's a valuable use of officer time. Clearly it is for some members, so that's fine. Okay. Councillor Jones.
I agree completely. That's what I think every time I look at it. The only other request, I don't know how others find it. Sometimes I struggle when I'm reading it, to understand where there has been an update easily without going through every single line and then checking. So I don't know if there's a way to indicate, or perhaps there is, and I'm just not very smart, when there's been, because sometimes they'll stay on here for a while while we're waiting for things to go through. If there's just a little column we could add that says updated this month, yes or no, perhaps, just to make it really identifiable. But no, so I don't want to cause extra work.
I'm seeing a nod from the committee clerk, so that seems a perfectly reasonable suggestion and is helpful for members to indicate an update. So yeah, that's a good response. Peter, you're happy with that? Yep. Thank you, Councillor Jones. That's a good one. But subject to that, we're going to note the report. So we're now on to, all right, let me loop back to where I was. We're on accounts. So first one, financial administration. Mr. Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the 4 usual reports have already been uploaded on the council's website, and this includes the payment lesson, which includes all the direct debits for September and also all payments above £500. Also, the income and expenditure for September has been uploaded as well, and also the balance sheet. The projected outing at the end of September is 44,000, which is a reduction from 66,000. Officers, we are doing all that we can to reduce the deficit, as mentioned already. And members should please note that the outing will vary month on month. Even though it's reducing, it's likely to go up as well. But at the end of the financial year, it will be zeroed by the general reserve, and the recommendation is for members to please consider and approve the September 2024 report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So members' comments, please, if any. Councillor Strong.
Move we approve the report.
Okay. Everyone happy with that? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ball. Mr. Ball. Right, so we're going to move on to, where are we? 13, so quarterly bank reconciliations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, according to the financial regulation, I mean, officers have to at least once in each quarter present the conclusion of the bank reconciliation to members. And also I will mention that the bank statement for every month is in my office, so members are more than welcome to view it at any time at all. We don't have to wait till the end of the quarter to view it. I will say a big thank you to Councillor Russell for countersigning all the September bank statements on 22nd of October 2024, and also all the appendices have been uploaded on SharePoint in case you want to view it electronically as well. The recommendation is for members to please note the report.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, members?
Move we note it.
Okay, thank you. Happy with that? That's a quick comment, Councillor Strawn, thank you. We'll move straight on to someone else said that, not me. So we go on to 13B, proposed temporary road closure, Market Square Station Road, Hitchin Street, Ponds Lane. Members to note the information from CBC Streetworks. Comments, please. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, move it's noted. I suppose it never occurred to me until this year that there would be cars left in the town. So just because we know this is coming, thinking about maybe we adjust the timings on the signs that Public Realm put up to make the streets not available from the night before, perhaps, to try and mitigate some of that for this event so that we don't add unnecessary pressure onto the team on the following day. So just thinking about housekeeping, if that.
I guess we can do what we did with Remembrance and make sure the signs are in place. But I think perhaps the appropriate lead a horse to water.
Yeah,
so I think
the timing from the night before, the timing was the morning. I wonder if that might help for the sake of a printing. It might.
I can take that on board. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with. I'm not sure who's first now. Councillor Russell, then Councillor Skilton, then Councillor Strawn.
I was just going to say, I think we need to put something in those parking bays to stop people parking. You put the notices up and put, I don't know, cones or something, just to stop people parking. It's not quite so critical as with Remembrance Sunday, but I mean, it was not good. That's the first time we've had 2 cars parked right by the War Memorial. And I think we need to be a little bit harsher perhaps with people.
So I think given that I understand that we've got a grant that's been accepted in relation to being accepted potentially at some point regarding to the barriers that we requested. Maybe this is something that we should be using in exactly for that. So go on, Councillor Scott, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So I was going to bring this up at TCM actually, but I'll bring it up now as it's come up. Those suspension signs are not enforceable. They're just signs that we've printed out, and so CBC is the highway authority and the enforcement authority for traffic. They would be able to do proper parking suspensions that are enforceable, and I assume they have the power to tow the vehicles away. And I think actually for something as important as Remembrance Day, it would be appropriate to have proper parking suspensions in place and have a tow truck available that morning from CBC to remove those vehicles. And they can be relocated and not sort of taken to a pound, and and that's done widely through other local authorities. So that would be my suggestion on that.
I'm going to go to Peter on that. You've got your hand up, Peter.
Just to clarify, actually, I was looking at the law related to this today, and the town council also has legal power to do such. So even if people disregard that, we have the legal power to ask them to do that, and that was clarification today.
But I think, and again, especially after this weekend, where it's not the first time we've had vehicles sort of left there. It happens on Market Day as well, but particularly an event like the Remembrance Sunday, we've got to have something in place to prevent it. So perhaps it's something for us to look into. We're going to go Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Strawn, and then Councillor Woodhead.
I'm not sure if we're now discussing next time or whether we're discussing
I think we've moved on across a number of things, Councillor Barrett. So bring it back to where it should be, if you want.
No, I'll just make the point then that in the actual document here, it says access may be allowed from time to time according to local signing. So we need to be aware of what it says. The closure will be in place from 7 in the morning till 9 at night. So we can't enforce anything the night before.
Understood.
And there's one other point I was going to make. And the restrictions can only be in operation when the necessary signs are erected on site as well. So we need to take, so we sort of can't do things before.
No, that's quite right. But it's
clear about what it says.
So I have got Mr. Hosseini indicating. So over to you from.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks on the point that Councillor Barrett just brought up around the timing. Unfortunately, this is actually. There's been a further version of this particular application agreed to by Streetworks, and the timing will be actually from 5 in the morning till 10 p.m. So it's slightly longer, which is actually what we normally.
Right. Okay. That's helpful.
The timing. That's
but in any event, the bit around the car park signage, and I think while we're on the subject, once in particular related to Remembrance, once we're in the event, that the signage, there's no value to the signage being there. So if we can get the signage removed at the point where we're having an event, there's no value once we're in the event. Councillor Strawn.
I wonder whether from a practical point of view, it would be possible to have notices up on the lampposts for a full week or so before the light switch on, so that people can see it in advance, particularly the residents in that area so that they're aware. And also, whilst it's a road closure that's being referred to, the parking bays in that respect, I think we could deal with by putting the bollards in with a note on the night before, so that nobody will be able to park there unless they move the bollards, so that we've actually preempted it so that people don't park there and think they can stay there overnight, which I think is probably what happened on Sunday.
Okay. I think there's some actions for us to take, isn't there? So anyone else wish to come on this one? Sorry, Councillor Woodhead.
Yeah, just without wishing to labour the point too much. I mean, I think Councillor Skilton's point is a good one. I mean, it wasn't just actually 2 cars on the Market Square. There were several parked in the bays in front of Barclays and further down as well that were there left overnight or whatever. I mean, I also, if the parade was okay this year, but if perhaps there were other personnel invited in future, there could be a security risk about leaving cars overnight as well, which makes me quite anxious, which is another reason for removing vehicles from the town square as well. But and again, we can talk about this at TCM another time, but there are clearly actions that I think we've always relied on people's goodwill for this sort of stuff. And clearly the one time where people have not not done that, we obviously now need to take some other measures into place. So yeah, let's look at that another time.
Okay.
What I was going to say was I was involved in that on Sunday, and one of the things I think we need to take into consideration better is the events that are taking place within the community on these specific days, and get our comms messages better so that we can engage with them better. So for instance, the Catholic Church was having a service that day. We need to be better at communicating this more widely so that people are aware of the circumstances.
I think that's a fair point, Peter. I mean, when there's events that are sort of impacted by a road closure that we have in place, it's making sure that the residents and the wider community are aware of it. So, yeah, okay. So we'll note that. So we're moving now on to the East West Rail upcoming consultation. Comments, please. Councillor Russell.
I'm trying to gird my loins for this one.
You're not the only one, Councillor Russell, I have to say. It's
I mean, I just feel that we do need to take note of this, because they're talking about where stations might be and all sorts of other things. We know about the likely at least 10,000 houses at Tempsford. I think we need to understand what impact this might have on the A1 corridor, if not immediately on Biggleswade. So I am going to try to get to at least one of these consultation events, and I would urge that others try and do the same, and that we understand a bit more. And if there's something that we're particularly concerned about, that we invite somebody to speak to the council.
I think that's thank you for Councillor Russell. That's a really good point, actually, because you say it's not, on reflection, it's actually not just about the East West Rail, it's about the impact of it and the implications of the wider area. So absolutely valid point. Councillor Strong.
It's not just the implications on the A1 corridor, it's on the East Coast main line, because I would anticipate that there might be some linkage between East West and North South at about approximately St Neots, because the track will be being crossed there. So there may want to be more trains coming north or south coming off the East-West rail link at some stage. We don't know.
Sure. Okay. Well, so you've seen the dates. You've got the note there. So action accordingly. So we're now on 13D, which is the launch of Brownfield call for sites. Comments, please. Councillor Skilton.
I'm reasonably favourable to developing brownfield sites, and I think there are a couple in Biggleswade that might be worth highlighting, which are the ones along the railway line behind Brunel Drive. There are old railway depots that are just concrete now, and their antisocial behaviour happens there, and their fences and Brunel that periodically get knocked down, blown down, and the ownership's ambiguous. And also the old, I think it might have been a gasworks along Birch Road, along the railway line there as well. That's another kind of concrete hard standing. Both of those would lend themselves to, sympathetic developments, probably flats, but it does work in other towns where you have fairly high density housing along railway lines that are affordable, and obviously, maybe to younger people who would be less concerned about railway noise and things like that. So I think it'd be worth highlighting brownfield sites that we would support.
Okay, thank you. And comments on that? Any views on that? Any additional? Gone, Councillor Strong?
Just thinking that if town centre management might have a quick look at that, because they where it can look and possibly make some recommendations to us.
Go on, Councillor Russell. Yep.
I'd just say that I agree certainly with what Councillor Skilton's saying. I'm not so familiar with Brunel Drive, but where the gas holders were at the back of the houses in Birch Road, there is access because there's a house there that used to be, I think, the manager of the site, because with it being gas holders, they had somebody on site permanently. It's just dead land, and it's quite right that it could, I think, it would probably cost because of what the site was used for.
Yes,
but
indeed, yeah.
It's developable.
Okay, so maybe that's something, Councillor Wood, if you're happy to take that as so we'll perhaps have that as an agenda item, but and for us to think about in the meantime. Good, lovely. And other than that, we can obviously submit them. So there's still the opportunity individually to submit these anyway. So I'm pleased to do that if you feel that's appropriate. All right, we are now right. So we're now on 13E. Obviously, this is the planning update in relation to Land North. As we agreed at the beginning of the meeting, we'll deal with the sort of the main elements, but also once we've concluded the main part of the meeting, we'll then recommence this and deal with Councillor Jones's comments relating to this. So, Peter, are you introducing or?
I don't think there's a massive amount to add, other than obviously this describes the outcome of the planning inspectorate and the appeal process that we were involved with. This is the document that describes the outcome, and also there's supplementary evidence connected to other financial matters.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to members' comments. Councillor Russell.
Obviously, it's disappointing to get the decision we've got. I thought that the inspector's report was tortuous. He has tried very hard, I think, to be able to approve this planning application. It's interesting the number of conditions that he's put on, and I haven't had chance to go through and see what the section 106 is, because if you remember, the section 106 wasn't available when this planning application went to DMC. So I haven't been able to go through yet and look at that, but to have that number of conditions, two of which are Grampian conditions, one on the parking and the other on the mitigation measures for the actual access to the site. So they're things that have to be resolved before any development can start. There are also conditions here that repeat some of what I think Hallam would think they've already done, like the archaeology condition. And I suppose I'm just wondering whether this is a slight Pyrrhic victory. But we're now reliant on the planning people at Central Beds to make sure that these conditions are adhered to. And I think we need to watch what's going on as carefully as we can and work with ward councillors to try and make sure that if this is going ahead on the basis of this planning application, that we make sure that as much as we can, that the conditions are adhered to. We all know that it's the wrong development in the wrong place, but we are where we are. I think that's all I can say.
And in relation to that subject, and you're absolutely right, Councillor Ross, I mean, the number of conditions that have been put on this make it a challenging development to progress. That said, your point about keeping an eye on it and monitoring it, work from a council perspective, how we don't really have a forum for doing so other than individually. It strikes me that there may, given the sort of the nature of it, that and our the sort of the how we have consistently challenged and sort of tried to do our absolute best to not only object but to force the issue on this. I think it's important that we have some method to ensure that the conditions are being met and we're monitoring it rather than it being sort of, we're talking about it now and then it doesn't happen. So I'm just wondering what we can do is in a roundabout way. Councillor Russell.
So I assume which case I think we get notified. That's something we have to do. Because that means that actually is as a plan. Pressure on people to so that's one way. We have to work with all councils to do this. It's not the easiest, but we have to try and work to be consistently questioning. So there are some timescales in the rules that are interesting. The conditions have to be completed by a certain date. So it's not just to do things that have to be completed before any starts. It's something something. Oh, I thought it was on, sorry. Yeah, there are conditions that have timed, so I think we have to be alert, keep an eye on it.
That was my point really. Being alert is one thing, but we don't have because whether we took some sort of process without making it another task for officers to do, but somehow it's whether we have not a working group, I hesitate to do that, but something that allows, particularly in relation to this one, where we've invested time and money to do it, to sort of challenge it, that not to let it go really. I'm going to go to Councillor Strawn.
Forgive me, I hope you'll permit me to speak. I've declared a non-pecuniary
interest. Absolutely, it's
fine. The observation I have is Councillor Russell, I believe, is absolutely right in that the way that we can monitor it, hopefully, is with the assistance of our ward councillors. And maybe if we can look at the conditions that are causing us concern and just highlight those ones to the ward councillors and ask them to keep a specific eye open for those matters that are being dealt with or not being dealt with. I think that's probably about as much as we can do in real terms. But that's an observation.
Okay, Councillor Jones and then Councillor Russell.
I wonder if, so actually before I say that, like everybody else around the table, I'm very disappointed to read it, but thankful for the conditions at least. And just wanted to say thank you to members, officers and clerks and partners' time for having got us to this place, because there was quite a lot of work that went into that, putting it mildly. So I think that needs to be said. This is a question. Is the joint committee somewhere where you could have a rolling agenda point on it to formalise that following up? Would that be a suitable vehicle to keep it as an agenda point?
I think Councillor Russell was about to say exactly that point. I might be wrong.
Do I get a gold star?
So great minds think alike. So Councillor Russell,
I think we could almost have a standing item on the agenda.
Excellent.
And since we clerked the meeting, perhaps officers could take note of that. Update on the progress with that planning application.
There's the forum. Okay,
not a
lovely.
silly question after all. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, so is there anything else anyone wants to say in relation to the report? Obviously, we're going to go into an exam session shortly. So nothing else? No. Okay. So we'll conclude that for now. Next item then on the agenda is a public open session. Any members of the public wishing to speak? No. So we're at that usual point at the end of the meeting where I get my words messed up, so I'm going to read it this time. Following resolution would be moved that it's advisable in the public interest that the public and press are excluded while the following exempt from item issue is discussed. Football update report. All those in favour, please show. None against. Okay, thank you very much. Meeting closed. Yeah, that item as well. Thank you, councillor.